Welcome back to another episode of GG Podcasts. Here with me are two of the co-hosts.
Hi, I'm Elijah Gamber.
I'm Robbie Gift.
And I'm the producer, Brady Shaw. Let's get into it.
Hey, y'all. It's been a huge week in sports. LeBron broke the scoring record in the NBA. There's been a ton of trades. The Super Bowl, we are currently recording 30 minutes after the Eagles have lost, and we are truly heartbroken. But that's not what's important to us. At the end of the day, we are lacrosse heads. Well, that's all that we care about, and we are going to get into it this week. To start off, we got a D3 game of the week. Colorado College with 16 goals versus University of Colorado with 5. Frankly, this was a great game, despite what the score might say. It's really cool to see these kind of D3 teams playing club teams to start off the season. Really cool to see growing the game. If y'all are at a program, a D3 school that may or may not have a lacrosse team, highly encourage you to check it out. Maybe start one, see if you can get going. That being said, let's get into the D1 games of the week. We got North Carolina 25 versus Mercer 3. What are your thoughts, Robbie?
Yeah, I would say that, it was good to see the Tar Heels get back out there following, not a super great last year as a team, but, good to see them play with Chris Gray. I will say in that beginning of that first quarter, they did look really lost without Chris Gray. But clearly they were able to turn it around, pump out 25 goals and beat the socks off of Mercer. So definitely a lot of work to do moving forward. Not like Mercer is the most worthy opponent to base their season off of, but I would say that a lot of progress for North Carolina, and we're excited to see what they do the rest of this year.
Yeah, and outside of Logan McGovern, I think they had a really balanced offense. Logan McGovern had 6 points, 4 goals, 2 assists, but there was a lot of people on the scoreboard. They got a lot of people involved, which is kind of nice to see. Chris Gray kind of took up the entire offense when he was there, which obviously was very successful for them. But it's kind of just nice to see a more balanced approach. Yeah, and with that, let's get into the Syracuse. I think that's a really interesting storyline. Syracuse, UAlbany, Joyce Spallina had 5 goals and 7 shots after coming off of a 15 shots, 1 goal performance, shooting 7%. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would say it was definitely a good bounce back game for the Syracuse team as a whole. Kind of a rivalry game for them. Good to see them get out a huge win and Spallina having some more scoring success. I think that, that's understandable. He didn't give teams a whole lot of a reason to play him as a scorer last week. So He's definitely going to have a lot of open shots. So, moving into the Holy Cross game, you would have expected that they would have maybe slid him a little bit earlier.
Actually hit him, touched him.
And maybe in some circumstances they did slide a little bit earlier. He did have 2 assists in that game with 5 goals and 7 shots. So starting to get a little bit more consistent success, which is exciting for him. And Syracuse as a whole is starting to come together offensively. Defense was already really strong from the beginning. Same with their goalkeeping. So good to see that their offense is coming together, starting to be successful. And Syracuse is looking like a team that could make a good run this year. So excited to see what they will continue as their schedule gets a little bit tougher and they get into conference play.
Yeah, they also had 2 great contributors on offense, Finn Thompson and Owen Hiltz. They're actually really studs, and I think that Spallina gets a ton of the hype and the highlight. But honestly, sometimes I think Finn Thompson might be the best player on that team.
Absolutely, and I think Finn Thompson has been by far the most consistently successful, and as a freshman, making a huge impact on that attack line. And some other names, we saw Burt Whistle make an impact in today's game, and he started to make a pretty big impact for the Orange last year at the end of their season. So good to see that his success is continuing on. But yeah, huge impact from Owen Hiltz and assists today. So, good to see that they're sharing the ball well. People are starting to figure out their roles, and I think that's going to help with their success down the road way, way more. So
what do you think happens when they play Maryland, though? Like completely honest, they haven't played a real team yet.
Well, speaking of Maryland, they Terrapins, their win streak is done. In a big rivalry game against Loyola, kind of wasn't even close.
Yeah, they pulled away early too.
Yeah, 12-7 finish. It was close there a little bit, but Loyola put it away. Had a big transition goal from Mustang Sally.
Oh, that was sick.
Yep, great to see him.
Y'all
make an
got to look
impact.
that up on YouTube.
Absolutely, and huge freshman impact from number 7 on the Loyola Greyhounds, making a big impact as a freshman in a huge game, probably the biggest game he's ever played in his career. So great impact by Matthew Minicus. But yeah, huge for the game of lacrosse. I think always exciting, even if the big dog loses. But
Yeah, and Loyola hasn't been great the last couple of
yeah.
years, so it's really nice to see this program that was big when I was a kid. I really hyped them up, really loved them. Growing up in New Jersey, they were always competitive with a lot of teams that I was rooting for. So it's good to see them kind of back in the mix. They had a really balanced offense. No one with more than 3 points. Granted, it wasn't a big scoring day, but I mean, they just kind of shared the ball really well, which was awesome.
Yeah, played a lot of exciting lacrosse, clean lacrosse, and it was good to see them pump out a win there. But this really throws a wrench in college lacrosse. That was our biggest upset of the week, I think, of the weekend that I think people would be focused on. Next, let's get into the Georgetown Hopkins game.
Yeah, Jesus, did you expect that? I mean, to start, Georgetown is ranked number 3, right?
Georgetown was in there at number 3, and Hopkins still hadn't been ranked yet. They were starting to, catch the eye of the people after that first game against Jacksonville. And, I think Hopkins was coming into this game hungry, wanted to prove that they can actually get it done and get it done against home at a really solid team against Georgetown. So, huge win for them. And I think now we really might be able to make the argument that Hopkins is back. It is tough after 2 games, but
they beat Georgetown,
absolutely.
number 3 ranked.
I think immediately they've already gained so much more respect back. And the offensive performance from Melendez was crazy.
4 goals.
Yeah, and the way he was playing out there was with full comfort, full confidence, doing whatever he wanted to whoever he wanted. It was a dominant day from him. And
yeah, it actually is not representative. His 4 goals is not representative of the way he played. He was absolutely all over the field.
Absolutely.
He could pretty much do whatever he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, Tucker Dordovic actually, first game as a Hoya.
Yep.
Great game. 5 goals on 13 shots, which is not really what you want to see, but still 5 goals in a loss. How do you reconcile that? Is Georgetown, what do they need to do? Do they need to share the ball more? Do they need to give it to Dordovic?
I'd probably expect a little bit more of their defense.
Yeah.
If an offense scores 12 goals a game, that's really good to see, and especially with Dordovic having 5 goals, and I think Grim Bundy Jr. having having 4 goals. That's a huge impact from those 2 guys. So I think they're going to really have to see a lot more from their defense and from their goalkeeping, and that'll really help them down the line. But I think their offense as a whole played pretty well. So defensively, they're just going to have to step up a little bit before they get back into that conversation again, because it's tough to have them start their year like this, coming in with so much hype, but kind of finishing in like a shocking but almost disappointing way, like they did at the end of the year last year against Delaware. So
yeah, I think that this is sort of a thing that can stick with you. If it's kind of like, if you start to smell like loser, it's really hard to wash that off. And I'm saying that as a program that went 2-14 last year, but it's hard once you start thinking that you're not clutch, that you're not a winner, to kind of get out of that rut. And I really want to see how they bounce back in the next couple of weeks. But overall, it was a thrilling game, especially for week 2. And I kind of want to hear the thoughts of our producer, who's our resident John Hopkins fan. What did you think watching that? Was that just pure hype? Was it awesome? What was going through your mind?
It was great to see. I honestly didn't think they were going to win against Georgetown. But seeing Melendez just freaking go crazy on the field. Some of the plays he had, that man needed a map.
Yeah, no, he absolutely had him lost a couple of times. Like, his defender did not know where to go, which is crazy to do at the D1 level. I cannot imagine putting on that shake and bake so easily and routinely.
Absolutely, yeah, and it was tough to scout against him as well, because coming in as a Marquette transfer and not playing a whole lot last year, dealing with injury, he really surprised everybody. So great to see for him. and great to see for Hopkins and the lacrosse community as well. Really exciting throughout the lacrosse community as a whole.
So I want to discuss another huge upset. When we first watched the Duke High Point game, Duke won 20-8, and we thought that Duke was absolutely dominant.
Yeah.
Dyson Williams, dominant. Brennan O'Neill, dominant. The D middies, Jack Gray, number 20. I've never seen a D midi play that fantastic before in my life.
Absolutely.
He was bigger than everyone. He was stronger than everyone. He was faster than everyone.
Yep, fully embracing every single matchup, wanting that matchup, and eating that matchup alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just the pure domination from the Duke Blue Devils on both sides of the ball, and just the amazing goalkeeping we've been seeing from Duke so far this year from the transfer. It's been pretty. They've been pretty showing that they're ready to make a deep run this year, and I think after that High Point game, everybody was ready to believe it, but I think everybody knew that they had to be hesitant of it because it is Duke in February, and they do have Jacksonville coming up, and everybody was hesitant for a reason because Duke ended up losing that game 13-12. Fortunately, it was tough to watch because it was on Jacksonville's stream. Wasn't super great quality, but I mean, Brennan O'Neill still having 5 goals that day, but Dyson Williams on a little bit slower of a day. But the person that was really shut down was Andrew McAdory. Having a really good freshman year last year and having a good first few opening games this year. Definitely would have expected a little bit more out of him, only having 1 goal and 1 assist on 5 shots. And Duke only having 5 different scorers, where in other games we've seen like up to 10 different scorers.
Right.
So props to the Jacksonville defense on shutting that down, and a lot more offensive production from Jacksonville, definitely being more spread out. So Duke definitely not super surprising. And they got another one coming up against Denver, which people oftentimes worry about in February for Duke. So we'll have to see how Duke handles the rest of February. But, I think not super surprising to see, but definitely a little bit disappointing because
we thought they were legit.
Yeah,
we wanted to believe they were legit.
Yeah.
And I think it also makes the case that John Hopkins is a serious contender this year all the more plausible because they beat Jacksonville.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that definitely supports that idea that Jacksonville is back, and, this may not just be a February fluke for Duke. Maybe Jacksonville is legit and
Hopkins is legit.
Hopkins definitely is legit. So definitely we're going to have to see what the Blue Devils can pull out through the rest of the year. Don't expect to see them go anywhere super distant from where they're at now, but this definitely is a setback at the moment, and they should be able to get around that.
Yeah, and with that, let's talk about something that was actually really close for a while, but didn't turn out to be an upset. Virginia 17 versus Michigan 13. Kind of a crazy game. I was actually shocked by how long Michigan was competitive. They played great, and honestly, Virginia didn't look fantastic, especially for a team scoring 17 points.
Yeah, it was for sure a close one. I mean, it was a 2-goal game up until the very end. I think Virginia as a whole looked maybe a little bit sloppy, especially in ways we haven't seen them before. And Virginia known for having such a dominant ride. I thought the ride looked weaker than it should be. Definitely a lot better than teams we will see, but for Virginia's standard and the standard that they need to uphold to not play close games against teams like Michigan, the ride needs to get a little bit more successful. But a huge offensive performance from Cormier, McConvey, and Schellenberger. Schellenberger, of course, everybody's excited to see. Going to be a Tewaaraton watch list guy. But Peyton Cormier with the big 5 goals. So we're really excited to see that offense that everybody's always so excited to see. And then, of course, Ricky Mizan, the transfer from Stanford.
So sick to see.
Yes, very great for the lacrosse community. Spent the last 4 years at Stanford playing linebacker on the football team, being a captain, using his 5th year to come back to Virginia and play lacrosse as a D-midi. But got his name on the scoring sheet with 1 goal. Nice sweep right across the top, shot on the run. But yeah, exciting to see him out there. Very dominant player, very physical. Definitely just buys into the game, and definitely will make a help with that Virginia roster this year. But close one for Michigan. Maybe Michigan might make a deeper run this year than they have in the past. Could be more successful, but good seeing Virginia out there for the first time, and hopefully we see a little bit more domination from them throughout this year.
Yeah, it's hard to tell how much of this is overreaction given the fact that it's just week 2 and we don't have a great amount of data on these teams. I mean, we really haven't seen a ton of film. But that being said, I just think that Virginia giving up 13 goals to Michigan kind of shows that their defense is a little sloppy right now. Their offense is clicking, 3 guys with 6 points, but I don't think they can really be giving up 13 goals to Michigan, frankly.
Yeah, I think it's a similar thing in the Hopkins Georgetown game. Huge offensive performance, but for a team that's so offensively dominant, you kind of need the same support on defense to help out those guys. So
Right.
definitely need a stronger defense there from Virginia. So look for that throughout, the coming weeks, because that's something that's been historically really big for Virginia and their success.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as for Georgetown as well, they've always been sort of prided as a defensive team. But we'll stay tuned. We'll keep you updated. We also want to point out Merrimack 2-0 for the first time since being D1. Came back from a 5-1 deficit against High Point.
Yeah, definitely a big comeback for them. Good to see the success of their team, and as they are getting to 2-0 for the first time. It started out really strong for Merrimack. I thought the defense looked really great, but kind of slacked off there toward the middle of the game. But great to see them turn it around and get a big win there. But yeah, I mean, I think this week as a whole in college lacrosse was really exciting, and definitely going to make it way more competitive than I thought it would be at the beginning. Way more upsets. So I think, this week with the new rankings, look to see Jacksonville in there. Let's look to see Hopkins in there, maybe even Syracuse. So yeah, we'll have to look forward to that.
Yeah, and I think this is why we love college lacrosse. I mean, there's not a lot of sports where at the Division I level you can realistically say that 10 to 15 teams have a real shot at winning the championship almost every year. This year, things are already crazy. There's a ton of upsets as we've gone through, and I have no idea who's winning this championship. I mean, my first pick, Maryland, they're out of it. I mean, they're not out of it, but I don't know how to react.
I mean, I guess you would have to say Virginia, but even the performance that Virginia made, I mean, down the line, if they continue at that pace, they're going to get beat by other teams, because if Michigan's playing a close one, Duke will beat the socks off you. Maryland will beat you. Georgetown will beat you. So, I mean, and maybe even Hopkins might beat you. So we're going to have to see a lot more improvement from everybody. I don't know if everybody was surprised by the hyper competitiveness of college lacrosse this year, but I mean, some teams came to play, and teams that have been playing in the past kind of got surprised it looked like. So definitely exciting. Definitely what everybody's been waiting for. Can't wait to see the games for the rest of this week and the rest of this season.
With that being said, that's all we have for you this week. Super exciting. Highly encourage y'all to watch these games if you haven't so far. We got a ton to look forward to. Frankly, as we expand our podcast, we're going to be getting some future guests on the show. Keep in touch and stay tuned for that. It's going to be super exciting. We're going to be talking to some players at all levels, some coaches, and some fans. And we're really excited to grow this game with y'all. So subscribe to GG Podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at GG Pockets. I know it's a little bit of a difference, but trust me, both are worth it. And feel free to reach out. I mean, if you have questions about the game, if you have hot takes that you want us to discuss, we are open to it, and we're excited to grow this game with you.
Yep, and look for more content this week on the YouTube channel. We got a video coming this Friday. Just looking for more content, looking to expand a little bit more, so stay tuned for that. And thanks for listening.